Hey everybody, Daniel Kaplan here. So in this video, I'm going to be giving a deep dive on a deal that we actually just got under contract today. This is a deal that I'll be buying for my personal portfolio, and this is a seller finance Section 8 deal. So in this video, I'll just be giving like a really deep rundown of the underwriting and the numbers behind this deal. So if any of you are also looking at Section 8 deals or seller finance deals and want to think about how the hell do I underwrite this thing, this will kind of be the key to help you out here. So before I dive into the actual underwriting, just want to show you guys what this property looks like. Absolutely beautiful. Honestly, the guy who rehabbed it did an amazing job. As we see, this thing is fully turnkey, pretty much as turnkey as it gets. He put like 50 grand into this property. It was sitting on the market. We cold called him and got him to want to do the structure. So super excited to dive into it. And as you can see, we've got all property looks super nice. So really excited about it. New appliances. Pretty much it was a full gut job, and he knocked out most of the capex items, which is obviously very nice. So let's dive into the underwriting. Let me move my face because for some reason it's so big right now. Okay. Awesome. So really quick before I dive into it, I'm going to lay out the assumptions of this deal. And of course, like when you are buying your own deal, you want to do your due diligence here. So underwriting. So this is a 4-bedroom property, is a 2-bath property as well. And really quick, just back of napkin, the rents that we were seeing for this thing, Section 8 will rent for about $1,400, and just a conventional long-term rental would be about $1,280. And these numbers, very important if you are wanting to see what your property could rent for as Section 8. Here's literally like exactly how you do it. You just search up HUD FMR 2025, and you will go on this website. You will click small area FMRs. And I'll show you an example of like a property I have in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So you'll go and you'll choose your state and then the county in which your property is in. And then what you'll do here is you'll just search up the zip code. So I own a property in 53208. My property that I have, it is a 3-bedroom property. Section 8 says I can get $1,500, but that's rarely the case. We're actually getting about $1,300, even though the website says $1,500. So a big mistake, if you watch any of these Section 8 gurus, they're going to say you go to this website and they're going to be like, wow, this thing's going to rent for $1,500. They're lying to you. It's not going to rent for that. What I usually do is I will look at that rent and I'll multiply it by 85%, and that is the rent that I'm actually going to expect. So hopefully you can see my calculator that I pulled up right now, but all you're going to do is 1,500 times 0.85 and 1275. That's what you're going to underwrite at. You want to be very conservative, right? There is a chance I might get 1,500, but I would rather be underwriting conservatively, underwriting for the worst case scenario, and anything above it is just gravy. So as I was doing my due diligence here, I was seeing that I was likely going to get about 1,400. I also called the housing authorities and a couple investors that I knew in this market. This is a deal in a market I've never been in, so a little bit newer to me. And then also we saw that long-term rents were $1,280. So I'm going to firstly walk us through kind of the full deep dive here, kind of what the deal looks like, the numbers, all that fun stuff. So quick overview over here. And as I do this, I'll also be formatting the calculator too, just because I like when it all looks nice, right? I think it's some OCD. So overall, the purchase price for this property is $145,000. And our down payment for the property is $17,500. So the seller finance difference is $127,500 is what he is seller financing here. And another thing to note is, hey, there is closing costs in buying this property. So just take your purchase price times about 2%. Again, I like to underwrite very conservatively. Some people might say 1%, some might say 1.5. Again, my philosophy with underwriting is I want to underwrite worst case scenario. Am I okay with that? And anything above it is gravy. That is always my philosophy as I'm analyzing these deals. So we see that my closing costs are 2.9K. And let's say rehab contingency is maybe another $2,000. I would say it's pretty fair. This property is fully renovated. Like I think I'm really pushing it, even trying to say that it needs $2,000. But my total capital in this deal is my down payment of 17.5, my closing costs, and my rehab. So that's our kind of quick overview here of this deal. And I need to bring in total about 22.4K to buy this beautiful looking property over here. And now let's dive into the seller finance terms, right? That's the most important thing here, that I'm buying it as seller finance. So I'm excited to show you what these terms look like because it's pretty ridiculous. So we know that our seller finance amount is this $127,500. Now this is where people are going to say, Daniel, that's crazy how this even happened. Our interest rate is a whopping 0%. So really excited to show you the underwriting and how it looks like with 0% interest because it's fucking beautiful. Amortization, there is none. It is just a principal-only payment of a whopping $400 per month. This is the power of off-market real estate. You need to be cold calling homeowners directly. This is how you get fucking banger deals like this over here. So just so I can kind of make it a little bit more nice looking for Daniel. Okay. Then, boom. So we see our payment is $400 per month, and here is the kicker. And also, you're going to love this too. We have a balloon at year 10. So what this means is at year 10, I'm going to owe the owner the remaining balance. But one trick that I always recommend people do, and I never really get any pushback for this, but what I told the owner is I was like, hey, hypothetically speaking, if that balloon happens and I am trying to refinance this property, the last thing I want to do is have to write a check at year 10. So if you're okay with it, what I'm going to add in the contract is just an extension clause. And what that means is if I refi this property and call it a 70% LTV, and the loan amount that I'm getting is less than the amount of money that I owe you, I want a 1-year extension. It just buys me some time because I don't want to write a check at the refi. But the beauty is this is 0% interest. I've got zero worries about this. But if it was a deal that's a little bit tighter, I would really push for it. But I always recommend if you do have a balloon, have an extension clause because things happen, the market changes. For all I know, this property might flip upside down and there's a massive recession that happens. The last thing I want to do is be shit out of luck here. So always recommend trying to have some form of extension clause. And again, you'll rarely get pushback if you built good rapport. Because me and this guy, we were joking. We were on the call for an hour together, just chatting it up. And I was like, Steve, the last thing I want to fucking do is at the refi, I got to write a $5,000 check. I don't think that's going to happen, given it's principal only, and it's 10 years from now. But are you okay if I just add that? The last thing I want to do is, default here, right? And he was totally fine with it. No big deal at all. So as we see, this is kind of the top-down overview of the seller finance terms. A purchase price of $145K, down payment of 17.5. So our percent down payment is about 12.07, and in terms of total capital, down payment about 15.4%. So not too bad. Now we're gonna dive into the fun stuff, and this is what I call the underwriting. So there's two ways I can go about it, and I honestly did not prep for this video, so I still gotta think which way I wanna go about it. But firstly, I'm going to show you how to really quickly underwrite a deal in 10 seconds. So how to underwrite a deal in 10 seconds is what I will call this. And this is what I call just my back of napkin underwriting. This, again, people always make this mistake. So if you remember anything from this video, I hope it is this. Here's how you can underwrite a deal in 10 seconds. Ready? Masterclass from Daniel here. So we know that this property is going to rent for about $1,400. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to find out what is our cash on cash return. And there's a couple ways you can go about it. It is what I call an expense ratio. And what this means is of the total rent I'm going to get, this percent of my rent is going to go to expenses. And the good rule of thumb is you want this to be anywhere from 40 to 50%. I buy Section 8 properties. My properties are a little bit rough, all right? So I want to underwrite conservatively. I want to always underwrite for my doomsday scenario. Am I happy with it? If I am, I will move forward. So people are going to hate me for this, but I always underwrite at 50% of my rent goes to expenses. So as we see here, and just really quick, a blue text means that's changeable. So in total, my cash flow before financing, $1,400 times 50%, $700. My monthly payment is $400. So I know that my cash flow is going to be this. $300 annualized, that's $3,600. My cash on cash return is going to be this metric right here. 16%, just like that. So now let's underwrite as an LTR. So I said $1,400. What if instead I get $1,280? Okay, I'm still getting a 12.86 cash on cash return. And again, that's doomsday scenario, right? I think that 50% expenses is a big allocation for expenses. Usually it should fall closer to 40%. Oh, wow, I just realized, oops, yep. I did that computation wrong for the formula here, but it would be that times 1 minus this. It was 50%, so it didn't matter. But if I did 40%, now we'll see. Even better, right? But I want to underwrite what is my worst case scenario. This is how I literally really quick underwrite any deal. Is I take my rent, I go rent times 50% equals my NOI, and then I subtract my payment, and that equals my cash flow, and I divide that by my capital and deal, and boom. That's how I get my fucking underwriting. That's how I sniff test any single deal prior to doing a deeper underwriting on this thing. So what we will do now is I'm going to do a little bit more of a deep dive. So I'm going to take this stuff right here and just like move it. Hopefully you guys understood the gist of that. But now I'm going to quickly underwrite this thing a little bit deeper, right? So there's some more things to really think about as I'm analyzing these deals. So I'll write this out. Some things to think about. Firstly is my CapEx items. And what this means is I need to think about my roof, my HVAC, my electric, and my plumbing. And what this means is these are the big expenditures that you will deal with when you are owning real estate. It is the things that cost you the most money and can kill a deal instantly for you. So as we see, my cash flow might only be $3K a year. Let's say a measly $3,000 a year. What if my roof goes out? What if my roof only has 2 years left? That's a $10K expenditure right there. Or my HVAC goes out. That's $6,000 out the window. I just lost anywhere from like 2 to 5 years of cash flow. So you want to think about what are the ages of these items. Ages of these items, and then build it into the model. Build it into the model for CapEx reserves. And I'll dive into this when I dive into the model a little bit further. That's something massively to think about is those CapEx items. Another thing to think about is your lease up period. I am going to be vacant for maybe 2 months after I buy this thing. I need to take that into consideration as part of my holding costs when I'm looking at my year 1 cash flow. Do not just look at your stabilized yield. Look at the yield from month 0 to month 80 or month 120, whatever time horizon you want to see things on. Also consider turnover. How long is my tenant going to stay here, and how much damage are they going to do that I need to fix when I re-rent this property out? Also, you're going to have a property manager leasing fee, manager plus leasing fee. So just some things to think about as you are underwriting these deals. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and then we are going to dive into it. So let me add a couple more columns. And I'm sorry if this is messy, because I usually model on Excel instead of Google Sheets. But for the sake of this, I'm doing it on Google Sheets just because it's easier for me to record. So hopefully, for all my Excel guys or all my friends from school who watch this, don't make fun of my Excel skills. I usually know what I'm doing, I think. So let's look at our stabilized yield, right? So we know that our gross potential rent is $1,400, right? And a thing to consider now is also vacancy, right? I want to allocate for an anticipation for my property to go vacant that I'm going to underwrite for, let's say, 5% vacancy. So we're going to put that in here. And my, oh my God, I'm blanking out on my Excel terms. I'm a little bit rusty over here. So gross potential rent, we'll call it effective gross income. I think that's the right one. Yeah, EGI. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Bill. Let me just quickly change this because I like when my numbers show up red. Okay, let's get back over here and dive back into it. So I'm going to allocate for vacancy. So times that negative right here. Oops. So we have that, and then now our effective gross income is $1,330. But now I gotta pay my property manager, who is gonna want, call it 8%. I've got taxes, I've got insurance, maybe I have utilities, I've got, what else do I have? I've got repairs and maintenance. I've got lawn care. Maybe snow if it's like one of my Midwest properties. And then I've got some other stuff, right? Other stuff happens. And then, so now let's quickly plug in some of those numbers for this. So as we see here, my taxes on this property, in a quick way to like compute taxes is you want to see like what the effective tax rate is. It's usually like a percentage. So for example, if our property is worth 145K, I might get taxed like a 0.8% of that. So that's kind of how much I should expect for taxes. So let's say for this, and then give me a second. This will be on my month. Oops. Sorry. Loom is getting in the way of my stuff. So month 1. And we're going to model all the way to month 120. Oh, I went out pretty far. Because month 120 is my year 10. So I don't need all this. Nice. Okay, let's get back to it. So now I know that I've got a property manager that I pay 10% to. I've got taxes, which we saw were called $11.60. So $11.60, and also my insurance is probably about $800 a year on this thing. And then utilities, luckily, Section 8 will pay for the utilities, but for the months that I am vacant, sorry, my thing is being a little bit weird right now. I can't extend the columns. Okay, well, let's hope I don't know if I can extend this right now for some reason. Let me try. What's going on here? Okay, there we go. I just lost my work, but who cares? We'll survive. Okay, let me get back to it. Sorry, again, like these videos are supposed to be authentic. I'm not going to give any crazy edits and all that fun stuff. So we said that our vacancy is going to be about 5%. My property manager, like I said, is 8%. My taxes are going to be about $1,100 a year. My insurance is going to be about $800 a year. My utilities, if I was vacant, would run me for about $60 a month. So just rate this as per month. My R&M, I'm going to allocate about 8% to repairs and maintenance. My lawn care will be about $50 a month. Then maybe for other, I'll just put like $50 there just as a placeholder. So as we see here, my taxes, again, this is a per month that we're looking at here, is $91.67. My insurance is going to be about that. Oops, I realized I locked that. So it'll be this. My utilities will be about -60. I did not lock it. My R&M is about 8% of my effective gross income. So I'm going to multiply that by 8%. Lawn care, like I said, was $50. Other was $50. Let me just make sure all my cells are locked. Okay, so my total operating expenses are going to be the sum of all of these, about $530. So I know that my net operating income on this property is going to be the sum of my effective gross income and my expenses that I will incur. So now we get that amount there. So really quick, I'm just going to do some stuff for formatting, just so it's a little bit easier once we kind of get everything. And then awesome. And then my net operating income. Oops. Sorry, I'm not the best at modeling in Google Sheets. Now my payment to seller is going to be that $400 that we outlined here. And my net cash flow on this property per month is the sum of these two numbers. And that is how we underwrite this deal. And now we'll go and obviously forecast this across the next 120 months. But there's some other stuff that I want to show you guys so that you are aware of it, right? Because it's not all sunshine and rainbows owning real estate. If anyone tells you that, they're probably selling you a shitty course and don't know what they're doing. Now, there's some other things to consider, right? We've got CapEx, I've got my leasing comms, and I've got, what was the other thing? CapEx, leasing commissions, and turnover. So my effective net cash flow, I think I'm making that up, but we'll see, is going to be these. So there's some things to consider, right? It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Though I'm modeling this at month 1, it is probably going to take me 2 months to get this thing leased. Section 8, they do not move that fast, unfortunately. So because of that, So because Section 8 does not like to move fast, it might take me 3 months to actually get this thing leased. So something to consider is I'm not going to get any of this cash flow until month 3. But I am going to have my utilities for the first 2 months. I'm going to be paying taxes. I'm going to be paying insurance. I'm going to be paying for lawn care. So these are expenses that I'm going to incur for these next months because, hey, unfortunately, you still need to pay the expenses to actually own a property. So for month 1 and month 2, I have $0 in income, right? Let me just quickly fix this. So for those first couple of months, I've got $0 in income, right? I'm just running at a loss over here. And then to make things even worse, I gotta keep paying the seller, right? Like they'll always have to get paid. Let me quickly do this. I think doing that actually messed up my formulas. So my net cash flow so far is going to be the sum of these two. And then also I've got leasing commissions. So on month 3, I'm going to have to give my property manager $1,400. They're going to want 1 month's worth of rent. So if we start to look at my cash flow here, right, it just looks grimmer and grimmer. So for these first 3 months, I'm going to be losing money here. And this is what people tend to not really underwrite for. And consequently, they end up misanalyzing these deals. They analyze them incorrectly, and they lose their asses. So as we see here, for these first 3 months, as I am leasing up my property, I'm going to, unfortunately, be running at a loss here. So really quick, sorry if I'm a little bit anal about formatting, so give me a second. And then so as we see here, now we can look at our model, right? On month 3, this is when we actually are rented. So for these first 2 months, we are running at a loss. And now let's go and kind of forecast our cash flow. So hey, the next month, does it still look bad? Nope, because I get rid of this. And let me see my other mistakes that I have here. Okay. Awesome. So now let's continue to forecast this. So we've got for the next, so 1, 2, so 3, 4, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's year 1. Now let's go to year 2 is going to be, let me see, 25. However, at the end of year 1, we're also going to be able to increase our rent actually by 10%. So not 10%, but usually with Section 8, you can actually increase the rents. So let's say, hey, I'm going to go from having it be this $1,400 to now about a 5% increase in rent. So now my new rent for the next month, because I can increase my rents and Section 8 will cover most of that, now my rent is $1,470. So cash flow gets even better, right? So now if I went from, sorry, I'm blanking on my math, it's getting late over here. Now until month 26, I have, I may be computing this wrong in terms of like the actual 12 months, right? Let me see. Month 24, so yeah, month 26, okay. So I just add, okay, sweet. Okay, sweet. And then now I will continue to do the same exact thing, where at the end of year 2, I can now go and do the same exact thing where I can increase my rent by another 5%. So instead of taking C6 here, I'm going to be taking AK right here. And now you're going to really feel the compounding effects of increasing your rents. So now month 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I'm really not doing good at my math right now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think it's that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's month 13. So I'll just show 3 years of cash flow right here. So as we can see here, month 1, if we just want to quickly analyze it, our month 1 cash flow probably was not that great, as we see here. I mean, our year 1 cash flow, I'm sorry. So as we see year 1, hey, I only cash flowed $1,800. So year 1, and my year 1 cash on cash return was not great, as we see. I had a cash on cash return of about 8.2%. But our cash flow in year 2, which will obviously make it a lot juicier. Now we look at our stabilized cash flow for an entire year here. I just realized. So if we look at our cash flow, however, in year 2, so the 514, we'll see that I went from a cash flow of $1,850 to about $6K. So a substantial increase in our cash flow. So that's why it's important that you are forecasting, because you need to be able to see this stuff and be able to weather the storm in the beginning. This is the big mistake that I see is people in these 2 months here. People don't realize that you are going to have expenses. It is going to be tough. You're going to be losing money. And sorry, actually in year 3, month 3, you're also going to be losing money. So make sure that you are underwriting this. Make sure you're being conservative. And now I'm also going to quickly show you just like the power of seller finance and 0% interest. So if we look at my cash in deal here, sorry for this going long, my cash in deal is 22.4K. But my total payments to seller is $400 for 12 months. $4,800. So my ROI, my return on equity, my equity I'm paying down is a 21% yield. So who cares that I'm going to be cash flowing, call it like year 2, look at my cash on cash. It's going to be more like 28%. Amazing. But let's say, for example, I don't cash flow on this thing. I'm not making any money. However, because I have 0% interest, my return on my equity, my overall gain in net worth compared to the capital that I'm putting into this deal is 21% every single year. Ridiculous. So that is the power of seller finance. That is the power of getting absurd terms that nobody else can get. Because even if this deal goes south, and sorry for going slow in my underwriting here, but even if my deal goes south and I don't cash flow anything, I am still getting a 21% ROI, more but not realized. And I just realized I spelled this incorrectly. So I am paying down $4,800 in equity. And if you look at that compared to my cash tied into the deal, 21% yield. So that means after 5 years, just from paying down my seller finance balance, I'm going to have returned all my capital in terms of net worth. So that is the power of seller finance. And also, I hope the biggest takeaway for you guys here was to underwrite conservatively, to try and get these amazing terms. Make sure you're doing your quick back of napkin underwriting. Again, I could have dove in a little bit deeper here. I could have shown you guys like the value of the appreciation, the equity pay down, the increasing in cash flow. But this would be a long, boring video, longer than it already is. But I hope you got some value out of this. I hope it was helpful. Hope you take this into consideration when you're analyzing your deals and hopefully buying your first Section 8 property. But because of this, because I mastered the underwriting and deal sourcing, I'm able to get 0% interest seller finance deals just like this, and hopefully you'll be able to too.